evening and welcome to the Mayor's Weekly. We're pleased to be with you. And last week's session, we talked about the new City Hall, and we've talked about it in previous sessions. And in previous sessions, we've talked about the 4-point plan, but we won't spend time on that. Today, we want to bring you up to date on another point under the plan, and that's our paving efforts. We a few months back came with a plan with the assistance of our engineering firm that would provide for work to be done across all 5 council districts. We brought that together in a format, I should say, that we could put it out for bid. We did just that, and it was at the time when petroleum prices were going through the roof. We get our bids in, and they're much higher than we had expected, and it was a decision by the council, and I have to say I think it was a good decision to delay doing any paving work at the time. One of the things that, along with the price causing us to take a second look, it caused us and recommendations of our engineering company that maybe the scope of the work that we'd originally laid out may have been broader than was necessary. If you look at the condition of our streets across this city, I think any person of reasonable mind would say that they passed the test of being okay. And so with petroleum prices declining and thinking about what we'd originally planned to do and making some revisions there, we're in a position now to go to market again to solicit bids for paving work. And if those numbers can come in at an acceptable level, and I'm optimistic that they will, we should be prepared to begin doing paving work across the city when the weather permits. We've touched on this before. Temperature has to be above a certain level for a certain period of time before you put asphalt down, that sort of thing. So all of that will be done at the recommendation of the engineering firm. But Brent McCarver is joining me today, and this is a project that's been on his table, and he's worked diligently on it. And I asked Brent to come this morning and talk about where we're at. And one point I want to make, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from what Brent's going to share with you, but I read comments about things in the city on a regular basis, and sometimes I really just amazed at the mindset of whatever. But this paving plan that we have before us tonight, that we're about to put out for bid, is the collective work of all 5 council members, not the mayor deciding we pave this road, that sort of thing. Brent has done a very good job of making sure that our council members are involved and those folks have an input on what we pave. Brent, I'm not going to get in your turf anymore.
Well, one of the things, Mayor, that I did a little research getting ready for today, we have approximately 225 plus or minus paved mile roads in the city that we maintain. Going back to 2016, roughly 150 of those miles, which is more than 75, that's 3/4, have been paved, repaired, looked at, dealt with, upgraded. So, you know, over the last 6.5, 7 years, the majority of mileage we maintained has had some work done to it in some way or shape. What we ended up with, and I think Sane, our engineering group, did a really good job putting this out. This next phase, going back to your 4-point plan, will be about 1/3 of what that initial whatever 6.8 or whatever high mark it was when we
Yeah.
did it to finish that paving up. It's about a third of that, and what it'll encompass, make sure everybody's got a good understanding, will only be what's called milling and overlay. To somebody like me, that's digging it up down to the base and fixing it right, or at least cutting sections out, going all the way down, and what we really think of as paving. The other 2/3 of that initial project would have been what they call microsurfacing, crack sealing, and that's what you think of, in my terms, when most of us laymen say they patched it, or they go in and just seal the cracks. That's an obvious thing. Those things have been taken completely out of this next phase. So what you're looking at, and make sure everybody understands, is from an engineering standpoint, not from a mayor or from Brent or a council member. This is citywide. What really has structural problems, needs a tremendous amount of work done to it. So all of that will get accomplished in this next go-around. The other thing is, it's in the process now. We'll be letting the bids, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. The bid process will take about 60 days, 30 days to get it in. Paving would then, if we can accept everything and we get our bid in, paving would take part sometime we'll say in the spring, but I'm going to say late spring, early summer.
Right.
Of course, weather will be good then. The other factor I wanted to make sure everybody understands, and the council, matter of fact, I stayed after Tuesday's meeting with a couple of council members. The other factor taken here, which makes it doubly fair, takes all the politics out of it, is the roadways were then ranked or prioritized by the amount of traffic and the connectivity. This was an interesting thing to me. I had never thought about the connectivity to travel through the city. In other words, is this a road that takes me from District 3 all the way to District 5? Is this a road that takes me from the west end of town to the east end of town? Am I going to get on it whether I live here to get to my shopping, those kind of things. So it was very extensive how these roadways were picked out. But that's the process we're in. We'll get ready to let the bids. We should have that done, I'd say, by the end of February, first part of March. They'll probably start planning the work sometime there in late spring.
Brent, one of the things that you shared with me, and the way this bid package is structured, and the way the bids will look when they come back to us, we do have some flexibility that it's not like, well, you bid Street 100, and if you don't do Street
Right.
100, then it's off the table and we start over. That's not the case, is it, Brent?
That is not. And one thing I will do, I'll take a minute, and I know you had said to them in your comments Tuesday on some other things, council's done a really good job. We've tried to put information out to them, and they have, now I say this, some a little deeper than others, but some needed more work than others.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job of getting in the car, driving around their district, and I pull my hair out sometimes, but emailing or texting, hey, go look at this road. Russ Smallwood, Billy Wade have driven the city one end to the other. And yes, what this will be, again, to try to put it in layman terms, that's the only way I can understand it, we'll be really bidding an amount of money and an amount of materials and labor. Yeah. Now, there is a spreadsheet, about 2 pages of a spreadsheet. You almost have to have a magnifying glass to look at. But let's say, for example, if we get into this and we want to move 650 feet or 10 tons or whatever from one place to the next, and things come up, we certainly have the ability to do that. We're not locked into a street. We're locked in to a material, labor, cost of work.
Oh. Well, really not a lot more we can tell you about that as we get the bids in. That will be a council decision if those bids are accepted, and we'll report our plans going forward. But I do want to reiterate that All 5 council members have been involved. They have had very detailed maps to look at, to mark up, make suggestions. So this final product is not a one-person plan or whatever. All of our folks have been involved in it, and we'll have a good paving plan and add, in my opinion, to what I think are already very good streets across the city. And comparatively speaking, I think there's no question.
I think you get within about 100 miles of here, they're as good as anything
so
you see.
We'll keep you posted on that. Brent, we have just a little bit of time. I hope you've seen the announcement on Rural King. That's big. I read where somebody said we need something more diverse than Rural King. As I went back and looked at the definition of diverse, and the store will have 90,000 square feet of retail space, and I think there'll be a lot of diversity in product offering there. I don't know. I didn't really understand that. Somebody said, "Why can't we get something good?" Brent, you well know that municipalities across the country would kill to have a Rural King, would they not?
They would. And I would say this: me too. If you get on Rural King's website, go look at what they do provide in their stores, from high-end clothing, and it's not just hunters or farmers. They have Columbia. They have cleaning products. It's pretty amazing. It's really, truthfully, a place that we don't have anything like it. It's going to be something, and it's strangely enough, like a Buc-ee's. It's a destination place. People drive to it to come specifically to Rural King. So
then somebody said, "I hear this thing about Olive Garden." Said we're doing pretty good for a city that don't have an Olive Garden. Well, let me tell you, Ryder, that until we meet the population threshold that's required by Olive Garden, short of divine intervention, we're not going to have one, are we?
No, and another thing that does happen to us, and we work, I will say this, we work tremendously across the parking lot here daily with developers calling us, let all the citizens know we're on the radar screen. Before I took the job, I can't tell you how much took place, but St. Louis, Missouri, Charlotte, North Carolina, I mean, they're calling us and asking us for information and due diligence. But one thing that does hit us when we do some cold calling, doesn't matter if you're the Chamber of Commerce or Main Street or just an individual, a lot of these places are franchises. They're not their own corporate, but they sell their franchises. What ends up happening, and you kind of answer your own question when you ask this, well, Coleman's a great example. Well, Coleman has one, why can't we? There's a 90% chance that business in Coleman is a franchise. That franchise is going to cover, when they give them a geographic area, however big it is, depending on the company, more likely than not, Jasper's in that franchise area. That individual or corporation that owns what's in Coleman or Tuscaloosa or even over into Birmingham, Decatur, wherever, that individual has the rights to the Jasper market. So that company or franchisee has to be willing, or they have to allow somebody else to do so. So
they can block the door.
They can block the door. And what is happening to us right now in this very competitive world, we're getting corporate, we're getting developers, and it's a time thing. Rural King was what, Mayor, 8 years?
8 years, and there's been intense negotiations going on for a year. It's not like we just turned over a rock and found Rural King, and they were glad they could come to Jasper.
And that's what's happening to us right now. We are in an area where we're dealing with a lot of franchisee owners that, understandably, if I got one in Coleman and maybe I don't have the money to put one in Jasper, then I'm not going to let anybody else put one there, and I'm going to make Jasper keep coming to me. So that's another thing I want to make sure people understand how that works. It's not like we don't want an Olive Garden, or me and you or the council or Mike Putman are blocking it.
It doesn't matter if you meet the population requirements threshold, you're not going to get one. Let's wrap it up on this. still hear a little bit about movie theaters. That's yesterday.
It is.
Yesteryear. It's not going to happen.
No, they're not building them anywhere. Just like my family, you can sit at home and, for $9.99 a month, you can see anything at the theater you want, and they're
Brent,
just not building them.
You get lots of calls and contacts and consultants and whatever. Do you have any consultants calling you to talk about building a movie theater in Jasper?
No, sir. No.
It's just
Tremendous amount calling for large box retail, tremendous amount calling for food, convenience store type deal, development. What are our plans? One of the questions we get a lot, what are your plans at the interstate? Well, we're about to build a sports complex.
right.
Also, too, I will say this, and this is a need here, overnight stay, long-term hotel, a lot of those type developers.
Yeah. But nobody's calling and said, if you got a good site for
No, sir.
all that's going, you don't hear from that.
No.
That's pretty indicative, and that's yesteryear.
Well, you're looking at with the way the theaters are now, the seating, a lot of them have food available, and so you're looking at a $12 to $15 million investment to build it.
Yeah.
And once again, when you look at these large corporations, there is one in Coleman, there is one in Birmingham, there is one in Tuscaloosa. When you look to these companies and say, put $12 million here for something that's not full like it used to be, they tell us drive to Coleman, drive to Tuscaloosa.
It's not like walking through an orchard and picking apples.
No,
People are going to invest millions of dollars. They do their due diligence,
Right.
And those folks are attractive to everybody, and you have to work hard to get the deals.
That's
and again, leading us back to Rural King, just couldn't be more excited about what that's going to mean to our city, and that we were successful in our negotiations to bring that company to Jasper. So look forward to your questions. Like to hear from you, and we'll get answers, and we'll be with you next week, and we'll visit some other things that are happening in Jasper.